Done.
So this is you did you hit record on this computer?
Yeah, I've hit record.
Man,
It's got pause and stop recording here, so I'm assuming it's recording.
okay, so this is what it's going to do. When this ends, when we end it, it's going to automatically start converting the files to your computer. So don't turn off your computer or close your computer at all. Just leave it completely on. I don't know how long it takes. I can never remember, to be honest with you, but it's automatically going to start converting the files to you. So just leave it on and let it do its thing. I'm trying to get out of this thing. All right, cool. So the subject today is what?
God's first aliens
and gods. Yeah. What do you think? Let me get your ideas. Why did you want to talk about that?
I just thought it was a bit of an interesting discussion. A lot of people like all alien talk and all this sort of stuff, especially ancient religions. And we also have ancient Sumerian accounts saying that there were other species created before us, as they were more rebellious, not as smart as us. You got the South American legends of us being the people of corn, and then I think there was a people of mud or something that was made before us. And then you got the Gnostic accounts of archons and the demiurge messing around with creating stuff before creating humans, trying to trap human souls and stuff like this. What do you reckon, Tyro?
Yes, see, so you already know. I always mention Eric von Däniken because that's where I got the whole extraterrestrial ideas that I came from, that my ideas came from. And then I learned about, Zachariah Sitchin. So I got those with the science fiction, I guess, aspect of what would, technology would be if we were that advanced or whatnot. But it wasn't just that. It was stuff like watching the movie Travis Walton or Fire in the Sky with Travis Walton. So I told you about that before too. So that played a part with the extraterrestrial thing. So I was always like, okay, aliens. They always said aliens, aliens, aliens. Okay, so I was like, okay, right. And I always learned that there was aliens from somewhere outside of our atmosphere, most likely from a different planet, some sort, right? Like it's always aliens from a different planet. That's why we're always in space ourselves, because we're trying to find life somewhere other than here. So I knew that little idea about that. Then, of course, I told you about how I grew up being in the Catholic church and stuff. So I grew up Catholic, and then, some of the family, they're Baptist. So I knew about, the monotheistic idea of religion. And I also knew that God came from a different planet, or not a planet, from a different area, not from, let me say that again. Yeah, he came from somewhere else, I didn't mean to say planet, but he came from somewhere else. And it was somewhere outside Earth. Like there was no doubt about it. Nobody could say where he was at. He was just out there somewhere, you know what I'm saying? And he's not in physical form or whatnot. But then when you read about how he walked through the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve was hiding behind the bush, and they heard God walking through the Garden of Eden, so they hid. And that makes me think, what that's physical form. And
yep. Also, the Jews would be told to bury their poop because Yahweh would walk through the camp, and if he stepped on it, he would punish their kids and so on for 3 generations. So
yes, so it's always these ideas put out there that God is one way and Yahweh is another, and Jesus is another, and stuff like that. So I knew the religion ideas of God, but then that was only because I only grew up in the Catholic Church. But then when as I got older and started having different friends and stuff, I started learning about Mormons. Then I started learning about people who follow the Islamic faith, and then people who practice Buddhism.
And Hinduism as well.
So I was always like, okay, there's different gods out there. So I was like, okay, but these gods always talked about these other gods besides the Catholic religion. We're talking about many gods in a polytheistic way. So I was like, okay, now there's more than gods. But then when I read the Bible more in depth and understand what the words actually mean, I find out that in the Bible, you can find traces of polytheistic religion within the Christianity. So it was always like, man, I knew something was out there other than Earth. Like there was no doubt
Our
something
ancestors
outside of
believed the
Earth
same thing
exists.
as well, Tyrone, that there was other
Was
life. The Egyptians recorded that there's other life out there, though we can't see them. And I think that's even recorded in the Emerald tablets as well. But even Bruno, who was a Gnostic Christian, he proposed that there was other life out there and that there were other suns supporting other life. He was killed for this because during the late ages of Christianity, they didn't want anyone to have the thought of other life being out there. They said, no, Adam and Eve, humanity's only one, rah, 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 God only made us. But there were texts implying there are other worlds and stuff like this as well. So you're spot on with this as well, other gods.
Yeah, because you can read about it in the book of Enoch, like how it has like 10 different heavens, I believe, and stuff like that, depending on which translation you read, because everybody has a different translation, and that's the other funny thing is that just because you read one thing in one book because somebody translated it doesn't mean that it's correct, because somebody else might have translated it something different. So you have to read, like, you always have to compare your books with somebody that you like against somebody that doesn't like that person, and see what, almost compare their notes and see who has the evidence to prove what they have. You know what I mean? And that's what I find fascinating about what I do, is because this is about gods versus aliens, or what if they're one and the same, but nobody knows the same. Like every time I watch something from Ancient Aliens, the show or something like that, I know you watched it, they always say it wasn't gods, they were extraterrestrials. And I'm like, what's the difference?
It's all a belief system. So it's pretty much the same thing, really. And then you have the thoughts about humanity being an experiment. Some believe a continuous experiment. We could be food to be processed one day. I find that unlikely, as say, if we were created billions or millions of years ago, whatever, that species most likely would have died out or got bored with us, found the answers it was seeking, and been experimenting with other life. So what made us so special when there was plenty of life here on Earth that was just as interesting as early primitive primates, So it's humanity always thinking to be something special, individual, and also fear of the unknown.
But see, that's crazy, because when you read the Bible, it says God created man to toil the earth or keep it or whatever. It just depends whatever version of the Bible you read, because sometimes some people will quote the New International Version, some people will quote the English Standard Version or the King James Version. So different words are,
and a lot of them are removing stuff as well.
Yeah, and different ones are removing different books and stuff like that. Well, not different books, but different scriptures, or changing the scriptures and stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, it's different. But when I read the Bible, I know Ezekiel had a vision where he said that he seen a little wheel or whatnot, and this wheel was able to move back and forth, side to side or whatnot like that. And when you look at the idea of gods and aliens, if they're one and the same, a lot of people would say that's a type of technology. Now, when I think of wheel in my mind of today, I'm thinking of a wheel that's on a vehicle. And then when it says it can move front to back, side to side at the same time, I can picture how that can be. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out. You know what I'm saying? It just takes a genius to be able to engineer the parts and put it together. I don't know how to put the parts together, but it doesn't, I mean, when I read that, it doesn't, I can see, especially working on cars and know how to work on parts, I can see how a wheel would be put like that. So I can
early
see
humans were experimenting all the time. We made crops and everything. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. That's a good point. You say that. Now, a lot of people compare the aliens with the Anunnaki. I like to talk about them a lot because there's a lot of misinformation about them. A lot of people ask, what is the bags in their hands? What's the bags in their hands? And I'm just thinking in my head, yeah, well, the watches, if you look, honestly, it's on both arms. They only show jewelry. You one arm most of the time. Yeah, it's just jewelry. And I think it's a type of flower. I can't remember what kind of flower it was. I looked it up a while ago. It's basically a jewelry based on a type of flower that they have.
Type of lotus, maybe?
I can't remember.
Yeah,
man.
I forgot
I'll
myself.
have to look it up. I'll look it up. But it's always on both hands. If you look at the actual, the statue, the ones where they have look like the falcon or the eagle head or whatever, half body and stuff like that, they always show that. Yeah, you look at both arms, they got it on both arms. Who wears two watches? Today most people wear those Apple Watches. I have one too. I would not wear two Apple Watches. You know, my Apple Watch already does everything I needed to do. Why do I need to have two of them on? You know?
Well, another thing is when they were
It
wearing
doesn't make
jewelry
sense.
back then, they wore it on certain places as it was seen as sacred and it would do certain
Yeah,
spiritual effects. They didn't just
but
pierce
but
anywhere or tattoo anywhere.
but most people always equate it to watches, and I'm just like, why would they need two watches? They first of all, they're supposedly supposed to, the Anunnaki supposedly be a million years above us, so they wouldn't need two watches. They're already talking about putting plants in our brains. I mean, we're not even a million years old,
Yeah.
so I'm pretty sure
And if
somebody that
anything
has
as well,
it.
Tyrone, it would be more like a compass if they were going to use anything, as compasses back then was more useful than a watch. You know, I mean, just,
Yeah,
but it was
and that,
jewelry, but just saying, you know what I mean? If it
but
was
then but
anything,
then
yeah.
but then you got to go to the origins of what a watch was. Where did the actual word start coming from? And then you can understand how it was. Maybe we say watch today, but like you said, they might say compass back then or something. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know for a fact. I'll look at it after this, because every time we do our little talks and stuff, I go and research exactly what I was trying to say and make sure I put it in the picture. I don't know if you've been watching the videos and stuff like that, but yeah, I just finished our next video, so I'm gonna launch that one in probably in the next few days or whatnot. You can see how I put all our stuff in there. I got
Oh,
your what
awesome.
your YouTube promoted your YouTube on there and made sure that they try, hopefully they'll subscribe at the same time. But going back to the watches, it's always amazed me how people always thought it was like some kind of really technological thing and stuff like that. Just crazy. I mean, what did you think about it?
Yeah, well, I thought it was an interesting sort of thing that with the idea of being a compass, that was just on top of my head just then, because back then compasses were important as they were trading, they were traveling, you know what I mean, back then. So very important. And back then they used to have sundials, and there was another form I think they
Yeah,
used as well, stuff like
yeah,
that, you know.
yeah. That's what I'm saying is that, I mean, that's a possibility. I don't know, but I know that the pattern of the jewelry on there is from a flower. I just can't
Yeah.
remember what it is.
The reason I thought blue, maybe blue lotus, I think, is something to get you
I
high.
think I think man, I can't remember. I don't want to say. I'm gonna post it on
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's something that
there.
gets you high anyway, that produces a psychedelic effect. And a lot of people would
Psychedelic,
get
yeah,
high back then to speak to the gods, to see divine messages and visions and their futures and stuff like that, you know. Also, a lot of ancestor worship was taken along in the forms of kings being worshipped, and even kings being messiahs, like Cyrus the Great. He was worshipped as a Jewish messiah, and he was a Persian king. So a lot of gods could be missed tales of these ancient kings that just did great things, because law back then was a huge detail, a huge advancement for us. Even when the first democracy was in Greece, a lot of the people hated it because they simply could just take something off someone. So it shows
yeah,
how brutal we were back then as well. But we were also highly intelligent, you know, so
yeah.
this has
You
impacted
know,
our religion too.
you know what's so funny, man, is that I I I personally really don't know if there's any difference between gods and aliens, because what's written in all the ancient texts, not just the Holy Bible, you get this sense that there's something amazing really going on, whether it's a story to keep people entertained or if it's based on some type of fact or something they really seen or whatever the case may be. It's just amazing to know that they're just a possibility.
Another thing was, it was to stop people from searching from within their inner God, to take it outside of ourselves. So a way to control in a sense, and also to keep humanity in check, because without law and order, we can be barbaric in a sense. But I was saying shit, mind block.
I mean, that's
With all being God, this is sort of pretty much the earliest belief as God being within all humanity, all life itself. So when we had animals, spirit guides, we had half human, half animal gods, and etc., like this sort of stuff. Then eventually we start worshipping outside of ourselves, seeking something more in a sense. Started to gain more of a material way of thinking instead of the spiritual way of thinking. But early humans back then were really focused on balance, moderation as well, you know?
that's crazy you say that, because when you read the Bible, every time well, I'm not gonna say every time, majority of the time when somebody's speaking to God besides Adam and Eve, and maybe a couple of others who say they see them face to face, he was always in a vision. Always in a vision.
Yeah, inside of themselves, within.
Yeah. And that's interesting because they also talk about that in a lot of other ancient texts too.
Also with the Bible, there's two creation stories as well. So that's where you have the account of men and women coming together, or Earth was a later place, being Adam being transferred there, and etc. We have the idea of Lilith, Adam's first wife, who refused to submit to Adam and wanted to be on top during sex sometimes, and she's fled the Garden of Eden, and in the end she kind of defeated God. She refused his command and ended up being punished as the mother of all demons. But the whole word of Lilith were used as Liliths, so like demonic spirits in a sense, you know, depending. Now she's sort of seen as a stand for feminism, as in a sense, you know, so she wanted equality. But if you take that sort of symbolically, it's the detachment of equality and making it into male dominant society. A lot of cultures in the early past, not all, were big on both, you know, males and female leaders. Some had male only, some had female, etc. You know, we've always had intermingles of ideas. It wasn't until, I guess, really kingdoms started forming that we started becoming more masculine roles and replacing feminine roles in a sense. Like, that's why we have so many gods and goddesses, as they were all pretty much us, you know, adaptations of ourselves, basically, and what we could be. But some of that's my thoughts as well.
See, there's a lot of stuff that I learned about Lilith. I know Samuel Noah Kramer, he talks a lot about Lilith, and he goes into really good detail about who he thinks she is. I can't remember which book it is that he talks about it, but I know I read somewhere about being a vampire or something like that. I'm not sure, but I know he talks a lot about how she was in a tree that I believe Inanna had, and I know the Sumerians talk about Lilith, but Samuel Noah Kramer actually calls her Lilith. I think there's actually a Sumerian word for Lilith.
It's interesting you said all that, Tyrone, because the whole idea about in the tree, there was an old Christian myth that she was inside the tree of knowledge, luring humanity there to wake up from this evil god. So, and I think that comes from the Sumerian roots as well, a bit of Gnosticism as well.
Yeah, I read that that it's also in the Epic of Gilgamesh, I believe, also. Like I said, it's depending on which versions. Like I've read Andrew George's Epic of Gilgamesh, and Samuel Noah Kramer's books. I believe it's the history begins at Sumer, and then the Sumerians. I can't remember anyway, but I read it in there, and she was supposedly in a tree, and Nana needed Lilith to come out. It was pretty interesting because Lilith is supposed to have been who Adam was supposed to. She was supposed to submit to Adam, and she didn't, right? So she got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and what cursed to be the mother of all of the demons, right? I think like that.
Yeah, well, she chose to leave the garden by her choice, and it was punished for it basically because she used God's word to like stop the angels from drowning her. So she used the name of God and pretty much defeated the angels, and was punished as being a mother of demons, basically, for that.
Right. And she was Jesus. She was the children of hers were sometimes identified as incubi and succubi.
Yeah,
I remember reading that before that. I just typed it in Lilith because the website that I like to use. I know a lot of people hate to look up these websites and all this other stuff, but I don't know where else you can get your information from besides just making it come out your ass. But I go to Britannica, And that's one of my favorite websites to go just for the scholar side of ideas on things. And I also use JSTOR and whatnot for the peer-reviewed articles and academia. And they talk about Lilith in here. And I think she was is derived from the class of the Mesopotamia demons called Lilu, and feminine is Lilitu. And the name is usually translated as night monster. A cult associated with Lilith survived among some Jews as late as the 7th century CE. The evil she threatened, especially against children and women in childbirth, was to be counteracted by wearing of an amulet bearing the names of certain angels. It's pretty cool, man. Like,
makes a lot of sense, because a lot of Israelites were settled in Mesopotamia, Babylon, and were exiled out of there. So it makes sense, you know, they took their legends with them as well, you know, to make their universal religion in a sense. Well, their own unique religion. But the reason they took so many Sumerian accounts was because back then Sumerian accounts were considered factual across the known world. So
right. Yeah. That, yeah, let's see. I'm trying to find where it would say Lilith's name is Sumerian, because I know she has an actual name in Sumerian. It's not Lilith.
Something else I don't remember either. I think she might have also been, her story inspired by one of the Mesopotamian goddesses as well, a little bit as well, or somewhat.
That what now?
I think some of her story or the idea of her was also taken from one of the Sumerian goddesses, I think, as well.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Some people have. I mean, see, it's so crazy because no matter what you read, man, a lot of people have almost everybody that I read from has a PhD, but they all say a little something different, and one will correct the other, and the other one will not even say anything. Like right here, it says the Sumerian female demon Lily have no etymological relation to Akkadian Lilu evening. So that. I mean,
yeah, it all depends on their own views. Something you can't prove and something you can't disprove, basically.
Yeah, like I said, the only person that I know that or the only books that I know that talk about Lilith the most that I consider what you call it, accurate sources is Samuel Noah Kramer and Andrew George from the Epic of Gilgamesh. And like I said, it talks about how she's some representative. She's stuck in some trees or something, like she's it's in a tree or something like that.
I also think it was a way of demonicizing goddesses, like such as Mother Nature goddess, like Asherah, who was often worshipped as a tree and stuff like that. So way of demonizing it and way of removing the female roles from the religion, basically, to make it more male dominant.
Yeah, but see, this is what I learned about language, bro, is that, man, if
language is amazing.
When we reading things in our language, it can't be read in our eyes. So you have to really, like, you can't just read the words literally. You actually have to break down each word in your head. And that, man, that sometimes gives me headaches, because I'll be reading and I'll be like, man, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And then I got to go back and read it, and I got to break down each word. And sometimes I have to look at the origins of the word and stuff like that to see why it doesn't make sense and stuff like that. Because some things, like when it said that Lilith was stuck in a tree, right? You would think that she was stuck in some type of branches, or she couldn't get out. It was really high or something like that, right? But it doesn't. But then when it talks about how she flies away, you think about how something just jumps out and just flies away, right? We got some wings or something like that, right? So it's just always interesting, because these stories have some kind of weird background to it. Like somebody can fly, or somebody can change to an animal, or somebody's a giant, real tall or strong or something like that. It's crazy.
Another reason why a lot of stuff doesn't make as much sense in, say, our language is because a lot of that stuff was meant to be taken as in plays and poems and songs meant to be sung, So when they've made it Englandized, they've kind of taken away the song sounding, because some words don't sound as good, say, if English, it would sound out of tune. But if you're singing it in their language, it sounds beautiful. So a lot of that stuff was meant to be for poetry, for singing.
Right. Well, we got somebody that said getting kicked out of the garden. It was not a garden like the Bible says, but a palace or zoo or work camps.
Well, it depends on your own theory of it in a sense, really. If you want to see it as a prison earth, some Gnostics seen it as a prison earth, some people seen it as a paradise, some people seen it was symbolically taken that if you follow God's command, that it's going to be a paradise for you. But if you stray from God, whatever, you're going to be living in hell, basically. So the whole story is meant to be taken symbolically. If you go back to the ideas earlier, this idea of this God wanting to create us as blind worshippers wouldn't really be, in fact, a very loving God. So we're meant to be slaves, basically, if you go by that view as well. That's the answer to that question.
So let me see what he said, because I always like to look up my facts. So, but we got somebody on here, so that's pretty cool. So let me go and see.
Awesome.
Okay, I said why? Yeah, word. I don't want to say his name on this because we're live, and I don't know if he wants his name to be out there. But anyway, let me tell you, so like I went to the Bible, right? And this is what I like to do. I always like to use BibleGateway.com because it has mostly all the versions of the Bible on there, right? And you're able to basically search any word that you want that and that's in the Bible. Like if you know basically what the scripture says, but don't know it for verbatim, you can type in most of the scripture in there and it'll find it for you in the Bible, right? So what I did was, like the comment said, getting kicked out of the garden. It was not a garden like the Bible says, but a palace or a zoo or a work camp. So let's go to the Bible and see what it says. Genesis 2:15. The Lord God took the man and put him in the garden of Eden to work it and keep it. That is the English Standard Version. Now, when we work, what are we doing in your
Sowing the
eyes?
fields, hunting, gathering for the community, stuff like that,
Okay.
Building as well.
That's all right. That's what you consider work. All right, let's go see. Okay, so I went to eating my, man, I hate trying to say this word because it always messes me up, but ETYMONLINE.com, etymonline.com, I guess is how you say it. But anyway, it's gonna be on the picture. But I went in there and typed in work, right? Well, let me type in working because I want to get the right word. Because this is what I do. Okay, so I like to understand what work means and keep it means, right? Like I said, the Bible says the Lord took the man and put him in the garden to work it. So I looked up the working in there, and basically it's engaged in physical toil or manual labor as a means of livelihood.
It's a farming.
Yeah, so what we're doing today is not considered working. What are we doing today? Because we're
working
not
for money, doing pointless shit, basically. It was a very, very different view back then to now.
But this is what it says, late 14th century, because I'm always going to take the screenshots and put it on our thing when I publish it to YouTube or whatnot. But it says it says late 14th century, active, busy, present, participant, adjective, from work from 1630s as engaged in physical toil or manual labor as a means of livelihood. But manual labor is a means of livelihood. So manual labor is basically, well, do you consider sitting at a desk typing manual labor?
Not really, you know what I mean? So I see manual labor as like loading shelves, construction, being outdoors, all that sort of stuff.
Working at the grocery stores,
Yeah,
or
all that sort of
working
stuff.
at
Stuff
a
with your
fast
hands
food
moving
restaurant.
around.
Yeah,
Yeah, even
fast
that,
food
you know,
restaurant. Yeah,
100%.
right.
All that sort of stuff. That's another thing I wanted to mention is about the Garden of Eden could be taken from the Babylonian garden as well. And also the
Oh, it
Sumerians
is.
had the Garden of Eden as well. So, you know,
That's where she comes from.
yeah, basically,
She
yeah.
see, I read somewhere. See, Samuel Noah Kramer says Lilith, okay, in his books, but I can't find the actual word that they considered her. I probably said it already, and I just can't remember because I can never remember what was her origin names, because I'm always stuck on what Samuel Noah Kramer wrote in his book. But the idea is that Lilith was what in his eyes it was some kind of creature, something that was in the thing. I can actually go get the book, man. I got the book in there. I actually have it on the tab, so I'll put it on there too. But it's interesting because nobody knows who Lilith really is in the Sumerian text. At least that I can't find, because like I said, I go back to Samuel Noah Kramer and what he wrote.
You
I
know, the
think it's
oldest,
Lilith.
sorry, Kai, I'll let you finish, my bad.
No, I was gonna say I think it's the Lilu. I think at the earliest time is Akkadian writing, and then the more detailed about her comes from the Babylonians.
Yeah.
But you also know that her Holy Bible comes from the Babylonian time frame too, because that's where you get more of the monotheistic, going to a monotheistic religion.
Yep, that's correct. I forgot what I was going to say. I was saying about the writing, it's like, well. But yeah, trying to think, don't remember. Brain freeze. What I was going to say.
Man, I be getting that way too, bro. I be getting that way too. But
I just
going
remembered
back
now,
to
Tyrone.
okay,
The earliest mention in Jewish accounts comes from the Dead Sea Scrolls and actually mentions Liliths, and it's like mentions her along with bastard spirits, basically. So she's meant to be like a feminine demonic spirit, and then you had bastard spirits and stuff like that. So the whole idea of evil was very, very different back then, you know.
Oh, well, let me tell you. So I'm reading Jeff Benner's book. He's a guy that's like, he is known around. Anytime I mention his name, people are like, yeah, I know who that is. I know who that is. But he basically could translate Hebrew, and he gives you a beginner's guide breakdown on how to read ancient Hebrew. It gives you a good lesson on how to understand it. So I've read the Bible, and I've read it literally for what it was. And some, even reading it literally, it didn't make sense to me. So that's what kind of got me on my journey. But now, learning what I've learned from reading his books, there's more to what's in Hebrew, in religion, period, especially Christianity. So for instance, I learned about the Elohim, and that could mean plural or one, right? And I know you already know that, of course, but it also is the way that the way it's written, like
It originally meant gods before the idea of one. Yeah. And it makes a lot more sense, or divine council.
Yeah, but not only that, there's a lot of I think I'm gonna say it right, but idioms. I think I said it right. IDIOMS. There's a lot of idioms in there that changes how meanings are and stuff like that. But I also learned about how they lived their culture. They lived a certain way they lived a way to survive. It wasn't like us. Like they every day was crucial for them to survive. They had to make sure that everybody did their part for the whole community, and that everybody had certain requirements they had to do to help the people around them and stuff. And I learned that words really do matter.
Yes,
When you
100%.
read.
100%. That's where you had all the conflicts of the ancient, like Israelites, say, with the Israelites going around destroying Asherah worship, and what they were doing was destroying older aspects of their religion to make it more dominant and say, look, we've got all these shit times because you're not worshiping this God. So they want to blame everything on there. So whenever there was an act of suffering, we're not doing God's thing, and punish the people. We need sacrifices, you know, ways of controlling the people, basically. You know?
But see, that's what's interesting, is that if you take the Bible and you read it from the first page to the last page and study the actual stuff and understand it, it makes a whole different, it brings a whole different meaning out of it. And you know, there was a time when I was like, man, am I really just trying to find something that goes against what religious people believe, or is this really what's written in the ancient text? And I would go back and read it and read it and read it and read it and read it. And I'll go back and share it with the people that are Christians and get their ideas and be like, am I tripping? And they'll be like, well, it doesn't matter if that's the oldest thing or not. In the Bible, it says this is the word and that's it. And I'm just like, I can't wrap my head about, well, it's been translated so many different times. Why not go to the actual original source?
Yeah, they don't want you to read the
And use,
originals. You know,
yeah,
well, the originals will be orally speaking. You know how it
it
is.
won't go against your beliefs, man. The ancient man, there was many gods around the whole world from the beginning
Yeah,
of mankind. So you're not going against your God if you do exactly what your God says.
percent.
You know
But
what I
usually,
mean?
if you go deeper into it, which is what a lot of people don't like to do, you discover that, say, Christianity, you discover your God. That God is all life itself, all existence. That's why it's omnipresent everywhere at once. Otherwise, it just can't make sense physically, you know. But like even a lot of the New Testament, like not all of it, but there are some in there that were just stolen scriptures from other earlier groups of Christians, like the Orthodox, for instance. They claimed a bunch of texts that were going to be burnt. They said, no, they're not heretical. They're from us. And they just simply stole them. The Gnostic writings were forgerized by the Catholics. Epistle of the Apostles. They stole one of the most popular Gnostic texts and burnt the original, and we only have their forgery, which they end up rejecting from their Bible anyway. So they went to all this effort to make this scripture up that they didn't even put in place because they realized, because they tried to eliminate the idea that these Gnostics existed. So they thought, well, if we put them here, they're going to know. So they kept it out. So for a long time, the Catholic Church denied the existence of the Cathar. And we know these people existed. But to be fair, some groups that were labeled as one group might not have existed as that group. They might have called themselves something completely different. Like there's Cananitism and one I just discussed before. I think it was Mesopotamianism. They reckon it could just be another group that didn't call themselves this. So because a lot of burning went on, you know.
Yeah, it's just weird because like, man, like I really want to learn, but sometimes when you're trying to learn from some people and you ask them questions, they act like that that you're already supposed to know. And I was kind of like that before, like, how do you know this type of stuff? And I couldn't picture, but there was a time when I didn't know either, but I was always curious. So I always was like, well, why weren't you ever curious about it? Like, I don't think that if you believe in Jesus or if you believe in God or Krishna or Krishna, depending on how you want to say it, or Buddha, or any religion that you or God that you believe in, I don't think you take away from them if you read your text, because the other
That's right.
text, your own text says that there are multiple gods. Even the Holy Bible, it says God is a jealous God, and He also says that He sat with the other gods. So there's the words are, even in, if you go back, if you want to really, like, somebody was saying on one of the Twitter spaces the other day, was saying, let's stick to the scriptures, let's stick to the actual scriptures, let's stick to actual what it says. And I was like, well, why are you quoting, you know, the King James version if that's not the oldest version of the Holy Bible, and not going to something that where it originated from? It was from the Hebrew Bible, and they were saying, well, it takes away from them, from Jesus Christ, because you know the Jews at that time didn't accept Jesus Christ as their Messiah. But what's weird about that to me is that they'll say Jesus Christ under one breath, but then go back to the Old Testament and say what God said, do something this way, and then they'll read something from Jesus, and a lot of times Jesus went against
Yeah.
what God said. Like, I mean, he even questioned God when he was on the cross, from what I understand. I mean, I've read it, but it's just amazing to know that when you apply the gods, aliens, and Lilith all in the same area. These texts are written down thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, and they're recorded on thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of records. I don't know what the statistics is on how many people can read worldwide today. I know it's a lot higher than it was back then,
Yep.
but
Extremely
back
high.
then, yeah, back then there were only certain groups of people that were able to write. So why
Yep.
are there records of the
Also
same things
allowed.
written it? Yeah, allowed. Which why is it why are these things recorded in the thousands? You know what I'm saying? Like it does make you wonder, like, is there more to the story? Do you have to apply your science fiction ideas into the equation to see what you get from it? And sometimes I can't, because like I said, when you really read these translations from different people, they seem to all have something different. You have, Anton Parks, you have Samuel Noah Kramer, you have Andrew George, you have Jeremy Black, you have who else? Zachariah Sitchin, you have Michael S. Heiser, you have so many people with their hands in the pot, and they, some of them touch bases on certain things and stay away from other
Yep.
subjects and stuff like that. So they're picking the safe routes and stuff like that. So you have to apply all those things together, and you're like, what if it is true? Like, what if these gods were extraterrestrials from different planets? A lot of people don't know that. When I've read from the Dogon tribe, I don't know if you know who that is. You know who that is? The
Don't know.
Okay, so these are
Maybe.
this is it's a tribe in Africa, right? And they're I can't remember exactly where they're at now right now. I think they're in the Central Africa right now, but they're supposed to be the oldest people that were in Egypt at the time, and they may be
I think
responsible
I know
for
who
the
you're
ones.
talking about. Yes.
Yeah. So when I read about them, they're the oldest groups that talk about these gods. And then when you go to then when you learn that they might have been the first Egyptians, and then you see the relationship with the Egyptians with the Mesopotamians, and the Egyptians with the Greeks, and then the Egyptians with the Indus Valley civilization, you got all these, groups of people intermingling with each other. It's just wondering, you're like, what is the true story? Because the stories are almost lined up exactly. It
I'm
just
actually
depends
glad you
on what
mentioned
the.
that group, Tyrone. Sorry, cut you off. The reason why I want to
Yeah, go
mention this
ahead.
is because some of their stories are a little bit different to what Egyptologists tell. And
Yeah,
they still carry the oral traditions, which is
yeah,
really cool. I wouldn't
yeah.
mind personally listening to some of them. That'd be fucking amazing.
I bought a book. I can't remember who it's from, but he said that he's been studying it for years. And one thing that I've learned is that a lot of people have two ways of taking you serious, basically. Uh, I know I'm nobody special. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Just
we're
a
all special,
regular guy.
brother.
What I'm saying is I'm just a regular guy that just interested in this stuff, who picked up a hobby to talk about this stuff because I can't sleep at night. And found cool people like you who like to talk about this stuff too. So um it's crazy that people take you serious two different ways. One, they want to know what kind of books you read. So if you read a lot of peer review books, a lot of, Oxford University or Harvard books and stuff like that, and they want to know if you read, just somebody who regularly did their research, because you're writing a book right now. You just got it done. You say you're sending it off to your publisher now to see what it looks. I'm in the middle of writing a book, and I know that I don't have the the audience that says, "Oh yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about." Yeah, a lot of people follow me on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that, just like you.
Yeah.
But we're basically just the basic men who just like to research this
Freelancers.
this stuff. Yeah, we just like to research this stuff. And I noticed people would say, "Well, you don't read these books. You haven't read this book, so you don't know what you're talking about." And what I like to do is I like to read every book that somebody suggests. Like, most of my library comes from people suggesting them to me. That's how I got the library that I have now. And you can see on my website all the books. Like, my favorite author is Godfrey Higgins. And what else? I have the schools that I take, and like, some people would be like, "Well, this person went to school and they did this and they did that. And a lot of people don't know that I actually attended some of those classes online that those schools offer, like Harvard and Bar-Ilan and stuff like that, because credentials is important to people for some reason. I don't know why people like credentials, but they won't research the material for themselves. How do you
And when
feel
you
about
show them the
that?
material, sometimes they just blow you off anyway. You know, it's crazy. I come across it all
Yeah,
the time when I'm showing archaeological evidence. Like, look at this. It's like, rah, rah, it's not in the Bible. I said, you can see it here though. There's a bunch
yeah,
of them. You know, for instance, we found on Mount Sinai a tablet that was a curse from Yahweh. You could buy at the markets to go curse your opponents, you know, so it shows how different religion was. And I always tell them all religions changed. No religion is specialist. Every single one across the globe has changed. You know,
yeah,
nothing's never changed. No,
yeah,
everything has.
yeah. You're right, because people don't understand, man, that it's okay to believe what you want to have, what you want to believe, and have faith in what you have to faith. But personally, be honest with you, if any guy that wants me to believe in him and if I don't, then he kills me, then I'm just out of luck anyway.
Yeah, you don't want to know that one anyway. Basically, you
Yeah,
know,
I'm screwed if that's the possibility either way, because
it'd be a scary thought.
yeah, uh, and I know for a fact that Moses and Aaron, they didn't even get to go to the Holy Land. So if they didn't get to go to the Holy Land, then I know I'm already screwed. You know what I'm saying? Because they were supposed to lead the people to the new
I think if
land.
that God
So
that exists, man, he's taken off because his feelings are hurt being called a monster all the time. So if that
mm,
is dead, so it doesn't work, you know, even with the sense of time and space and creation, they say that if he's outside of time and space, well, then creation implies a before and after. So if it's not for time and space, it can't create anything as it implies time and space, before and after. So, and again, with being omnipresent, has to be all life itself. It can't be everywhere at once unless we're the experience. Otherwise, it makes no sense. It's just a boogeyman, basically. Otherwise, you know.
well, see, the Bible tells you that he's not everywhere and he knows everything, because, like I
Yep.
said, he walked through. He didn't know where
Adam and Eve
Adam and
was.
Eve was. Yeah, he called out to him. But a lot of people will say, well, this is, and I'm telling you, I join these spaces on Twitter and stuff because it helps me with my book, and two, it helps me understand what people today, how they understand the holy text, even if they only, I mean, I've had people say, I studied the Bible for 25 years. I know everything about it. And then I'll say, hey, did you know that the Sumerians have a flood story, and they also have, do you know Atra Hasis? I think that's how you say it. Hasis, I don't know how you say it, or Zihu Sutra. I don't know if I said that right either. The two protagonists for the basically the same as the Noah flood. I'll tell them that, and they'll say, "Oh, I didn't know that." And then I'll say, "How didn't you research? It says, have you ever researched what Shinar means in the Bible?" And people would be like, "No, I don't know what Shinar means." And I'm like, "That's Sumer. Don't you ever want to know what exactly Sumer was back then and stuff? Like, don't you go back and research to see what it is, or do you just read the words and just carry on?" Like,
Yep.
I know like I said, when I read a book, I break down. Somebody actually said this to me. They said, "Why do you break down every word?" And I said, "It's hard because you have to understand what every word is." I don't know. I'm not I don't hold myself to be the smartest man in the world. I actually go on my phone and type in the dictionary and the etymology of stuff. Like, somebody will say the word vampire, and I want to know what was vampire really meaning. Where did the origins of it come from? Like, how old is that, the idea of a vampire or whatnot? So then that's talking about Lilith. Like, I can't remember which book it is, man, but I want to say it was Samuel Noah Kramer. I don't think it was Andrew George. I'm pretty sure it's not, but I know it's I know it's one of the ones that I put the tab on there. And you've seen the tabs, how I post them on website and stuff like that. My son sometimes comes over and takes the tabs off when I leave my book laying around. And good thing I go back and read them and stuff like that. So I'll find it again. But um, your background is Aboriginal Australian. So you say your father is what, Dutch and
Oh,
Aboriginal,
he was Scotch. Oh, sorry,
Scottish,
Scottish and
Scottish,
Aboriginal.
Scottish, Scottish.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Well,
Scottish. My
to be
bad.
fair, he didn't actually know what his dad was, to be honest. Bit of a rough family he had as
Oh,
well. I don't actually speak to him
oh,
personally. Didn't quite get along. Um,
okay.
drugs and that sort of stuff. But long story short, as well, with his background, I looked it up and it was Scottish. So that's
Yeah,
where, because it was mobs, and so I looked it up. But that being said, if it's not him, it could be his best friend that hung himself. And so I
yeah.
think with
But
my
what
mum,
I
she's not 100% honest. So I go by with what I find out, in a sense. So I know
right.
my mother's side and all that sort of stuff, and that's all Irish and Scottish and English. And I was looking even further back. There's a bit of Norse in there, and Norway, and Scandinavian that travelled into Scotland and Ireland, and all that sort of crap. And my nana's
Yeah,
family was a strong Irish background, which goes back to the O
right.
days. And there was a castle that they used to own, and they fought the English for like 200 years. That was the Battle of
Mm,
Dies at O'Day that they were known for. But yeah, one thing I want to say as well, Tyrone, was one of the biggest lies you hear about Christians say is that God doesn't change his mind. As you know, in the Bible, he's changed his mind a couple of times. And my favorite account of him changing his mind is in Ezekiel 4.12, where he tells the Jews to bake bread in poo, basically, where everyone can see it and eat it. And a Jewish man says, oh, can we use cow poo instead? So God changed his mind and agreed and said, yes, you can use cow poo instead of human poo. And I find that pretty hilarious. I actually had an
Which one was
argument.
that?
Oh,
Which one
Ezekiel
is?
4.12, that's in.
I
It's
want to look at
hilarious.
it.
I had an
I
argument with
want
this
to.
Christian because I actually made a mistake. I didn't read the end and it said cow poo. And I just said, oh, he got
Okay.
told to eat human poo. He goes, no, well, he changed his mind. I'm like, well, cow poo's much better then, isn't it? And see, he was baffled. He didn't realize, he didn't read the whole thing and
Okay.
take it what it meant. But if you got it up, you can put it up. It's pretty
Yeah,
funny.
I
I got
got
a
it.
Bible with me.
No, I got it right here. I'm glad because see, this, this gives a chance to show people that this is how easy it is to look up the stuff you see for yourself.
Yep,
You
the
know
word
what I
they
mean?
use is excrement as well, which is poo.
Yeah. I went and typed in the English Standard Version, Ezekiel 4:12 through 15. That's what it says, and I'm gonna say a couple of different ones to show how the meanings change. But and you shall eat it as a barley cake, bake it in their sight on human dung. And the Lord said, thus shall the people of Israel eat their bread unclean among the nations where I will drive them. Then I said, oh, Lord God, behold, I have never defined myself from my youth up till now. I have never eaten what died of itself or was torn by beasts, nor has tainted meat come into my mouth. Then he said to me, see, I sound to you cow's dung instead of human dung, on which you may prepare your bread. All right, that's the English Standard
Praise
Version
the
one.
Lord. So their bread's not biblical. They're going to
So,
change their Last Supper bread then.
okay, so this is let's go. This read the 21st century King James Version, okay? And thou shalt eat it as barley cakes, and thou shalt bake it with dung that cometh out of a man in their sight.
Oh, a man poo, specifically.
And the Lord said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whither I drive them. Then said I, our Lord God, behold, my soul hath not been polluted from, for from my youth up even till now have I not eaten of what which dieth of itself or is torn in pieces, neither came there abdominal flesh into my mouth. Then he said unto me, lo, I have given the cow's dung for men's dung, and thou shalt prepare thy bread therewith. Yo, that's
Less
close.
corn, I guess.
All right, that's one. Okay, here's the American Standard Version. And thou shalt eat it as barley cakes, and thou shalt bake it in the sight with the dung that come out of a man. Jehovah said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their bread unclean among the nations, whither I will drive them. Then said I, our Lord, Jehovah, behold, my soul hath not been polluted, for from my youth up until now have I not eaten of that diet of itself or is torn of breast, neither came the abdominal flesh into my mouth. Then he said unto me, see, I have given thee cow's dung for men's dung, and thou shalt prepare thy bread thereon. Yo, that's gross. All right,
Yeah,
let's do one more. Let's see. Uh, all right, here. Yo, this is the Christian Standard Bible, okay?
lovely. Let's
You
hear
will you will eat it as you would barley cake and bake it over dried human excrement in their sight. The Lord said, this is how the Israelites will eat their bread, ceremonially unclean among the nations where I will banish them. But I said, oh Lord, I have never been defiled from my youth until now. I have not eaten anything that died naturally, or was mauled by wild beasts, and impure meat has never entered my mouth. He replied to me, look, I will let you use cow dung instead of human excrement, and you can make your bread over it. Yo, so he's telling them, yo, all right, if you don't like this cow dung, or I mean, if you don't like shitting over your food, then go ahead and just take this cow dung and do it. Yo, that's
Yeah,
gross.
it's pretty fucked, isn't it? There's a couple of messed up things in there. There's even a chapter, I forgot exactly where. I've made a video on Yahweh and poop. I want to do another one. But there's a scene in there that Yahweh tells them how to actually take a shit. Like tells them they have to bury it so far away from the camp because if he steps in it, he's going to punish your children for it, which is pretty messed up if you ask me. So Yahweh has a lot of things with poo, especially punishing people with poo, rubbing their faces in it for 3 generations and all that sort of crap. Yeah.
Dang, that's crazy. I didn't know that.
Should I just skip that one?
Yeah, yeah, I think I probably let that go out of my head. Let's see what else it says. Um, you said it has other ones than done.
Yeah, there's a couple of dung
Uh,
ones in there. An excrement. And a lot of stuff about chopping off foreskins. Like King David gave a king over 200 foreskins of Philistinians as a marriage present so he could marry the king's daughter, basically. I think it was daughter, if daughter or sister, 100% sure it's his daughter. But over 200 foreskins is a wedding gift. So it's pretty shocking.
trying to find the English
You know,
version
another
of
one
it,
that's
man.
been censored as well
What's
is
that?
Numbers 31. And it's when
There.
God basically demands 32 virgins for him. So basically be sacrificed to him and the rest be divided as sex slaves amongst the soldiers, forced wives. Some Bibles are removing that and taking out the word virgin or females and just putting persons in there. But there's a whole scene in there what God demands for tribute, including precious metals, and he cracks a ship when someone steals a coat and some coins and orders that person's property be destroyed. They stone his animals and stone him and his entire family. So that God obviously is not a very kind, loving individual. He's very jealous and wrathful. And this is one reason that Jesus said that he was a murderer since the beginning in John, and said that basically they're worshipping their father who's the devil. So Yahweh wasn't particularly liked by the Essene community.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been looking. I've been looking at this cow dung and why it's so popular, because I know in some African tribes they actually have some traditions with it too.
Yeah,
But
and I think Indians even use elephant poo for coffee and stuff like that, like they drive the coffee bean out of it. And I think some people use cows as well to get the coffee beans out of it as well, I'm pretty sure.
so so this is what it says on BBC.com. It's a future article on there by, let's see, who is it by? Um, by Philip Ball. It was written 6 June 2013. And it says this was what he says. He says the earliest glazes dating from the late, wait, okay, so cow dung was used as a glaze, right? And earliest dating for it was the 5th millennium BC and found in the Near East, Egypt, and Indus Valley, where it was used for natural coating natural stones made from minerals such as quartz and soapstone talc. As the technology advanced, the stones were often exquisitely carved before coating with a blue copper based glaze to make objects now known as Faience, Faience. By the second millennium BC, Egyptian faience was being traded throughout Europe. So you say copper, right? That's what you said?
Yeah, you said copper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, no, I thought you said copper or something like
Oh,
that.
no, no.
And then
Oh,
there was the fuel speculation came from a basic idea forwarded by Egyptologists such as Englishman William Flinders Petrie in the early 20th century was that the materials might have found that way by accident into copper smelting kilns and been transformed in the heat, making glass, I guess.
yeah. Okay, trippy. Yeah, I wouldn't expect that. For a second, I thought you were going to be discussing the original glaze or something then.
No, it says the article is called "The Production of Glazed Ceramics in Ancient Times."
Yep.
May have began thanks to Pat's slipping into the recipe by chance. That's
So
all.
that was like for making clay pots and all that sort of stuff, I'm guessing, eh?
But they say that's a theory, though. But you know
Okay.
what a theory
Yeah,
is.
I get you. I get you. Well, I know that they used to use poo as well, like cow dung and stuff like that for ritual ceremonies and painting. It wasn't just poo, it was mixed in with everything else, you know, like for instance, like the Picts that used to paint themselves. I think it was like a bit of poo and ash and all that sort of stuff. And they used that as a ceremonial rite, pretty much, you know, for declaring they were going to go to war basically and not come back until their quest is achieved, or maybe it was a spiritual path or something like that, you know.
So I was just thinking, I wanted to know what was the etymology version of the aliens. So I went to look in the word online etymology dictionary, and it says, I think it says, yeah, 13th century, strange foreign from Old French, alien, strange foreign as a noun, and alien, stranger, foreigner from Latin, alienus, of our belonging to another, not one's own, foreign, strange. That's also a noun, but it just goes basically that is foreign. So alien
Mm,
didn't even mean something outside of the earth until, let's see, the something
yes,
over
that's correct.
from
It
the
just meant
16th.
foreign and strange. That was the
Yeah.
very first use of the word, which is a lot of people don't actually know that as
Okay. Hey,
well.
so check this out. The meaning not of this earth is first recorded in 1920.
Hmm, interesting.
I ain't never knew that.
Because I know the earliest reference of, say, extraterrestrial, what we now call extraterrestrial, was simply just life somewhere else, you know, life on other
What was
planets. Like the Egyptians mentioned there's other life out there, though we can't see them. So they just simply knew
yeah,
there's other life. And Gnostic said the same thing. They said life is universal. Some Hindus said life is everywhere. We're not just that special, it's everywhere. So then you have the belief
yeah,
that reincarnation, and that's not just in physical bodies, but this is also planets, the trees, all life itself, and microorganisms are taken into account, you know.
yeah, but what I'm saying though is, okay, listen. You made some good points. So the idea today that aliens are not of this earth, right? We was just talking about that, right?
Yep.
I go to the etymology word dictionary and find out that the meaning not of this earth is first recorded in 1920. Okay. 1920. We weren't even anywhere near going to the moon in 1920. And so all these ideas about aliens and extraterrestrials came maybe when Eric Von Däniken wrote his book, 1968, I think. So what, 48 years later,
Hmm.
you get the idea of aliens and extraterrestrials from not of this earth first being recorded. Now my interest comes in is when, and I'll look it up while you're talking, is what was that idea and why did it come to that idea? Because if you think about it, like you said, the Egyptians thought about something outside of this, but I've read on so many occasions, I can never remember who said it, but the idea is that Neanderthals thought that we had an idea outside of this earth too, because they were the first, or they got the first idea of them burying people in burials is through the Neanderthal. What is your idea about that? Because that puts up a different idea. That means that the Neanderthals had the first idea of what a religion would be.
In a sense, yes. Well, we have proof that they believed in reincarnation. We don't know about their religions, so to say, but we do know
Right.
reincarnation is the way they buried bodies would symbolize, like say in a spiral would symbolize reincarnation. A lot of those paintings were on psychedelics, the spirals itself, reincarnation.
Yeah,
This
definitely.
the circumpartment, which eventually become known as the monad, from all these deeper traditions passed on oral traditions and slipped their ways into religions and philosophy and all this sort of stuff. And burial was a big part of it as well. Also, hunting and agriculture. One of the first plants was cannabis being grown, and they were using that for birth treatments, and they seen that as masculine and femme. So this whole dualistic nature of cycles is what they sort of believed in. So they seen, in a sense, Mother Earth as God, and this whole recycling of process being returned back to the earth. Then you had the idea of souls belong to the universe, and then the body belongs to the earth as ideas start to shift and change.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is that even with all the changes, there's still a lot of um similarities though.
yes.
A lot of them. And yeah, it keeps saying that not of this earth is recorded in the 1920s, but it doesn't give
Yeah.
you.
But that's true. That's when the word alien specifically was used for that, because they didn't use the word alien back then. It just meant foreign and strange and unknown. Like they did refer to some gods and angels as alien-like, but because they were unknowable. So not because they were somewhere else, but just unknowable, as they believed the part of God that you understood was you. The part of your soul you understood was you, as the soul was also seen as unknowable, something mystic and unknown, that we just have a idea of it in a sense.
And they say energy doesn't die. I mean,
Yes. They
that
just
some
transfer it.
people some people consider your soul just to be energy.
Yeah, that's was the whole idea of it. Like the whole idea of the soul was the mind originally. Like the Druids, they believed the soul
So
was the mind.
so let's put it like this then. So we because there's a lot of ancient text that says we chose this body, we chose this lifestyle, we chose our parents, our brothers, our friends, and all this stuff. We chose this lifestyle ourselves. Do you really think that we was a little energy ball that was like, yo, I just want to join this little body and just
Not
do this,
exactly.
this, this?
I
Okay.
see it with reincarnation being an unconscious act. It's like a dream, so a psychedelic world. Not everyone can control their dreams. So if you're simply this, you're just going to reopen a sense. I say it's
Yeah.
just going to be keep going until you experience all that is needs to experience. So never ending information until you don't need to evolve or reincarnate, so in a sense. So returning to the source of energy, basically. So you
Yeah.
might live on, say, as an angel that might be, say if we live on in thoughts, like our memories, because everything is
Yeah.
mental. So that angel that you're seeing could be a loved one or your past life, a reflection of yourself, basically. So this never ending cycle of God being you and all life itself. So unknowable, just knowable for you. So until you self-discovery, so learning, growth, information, and love, processing is pretty much what life is about, really. So all information. So life's eternal, life supporting life, our bodies dissolving to the earth and being restored, and trees, and say the black hole sucking up galaxies, new galaxies forming when the universe continues to expand on this never-ending energy. So that's where also reincarnation is backed up through maths and idea, but still, it's still an idea of faith, you know. But the
Yeah.
whole idea of energy is real. So even if there's nothing here, at least we're still energy. In a sense, we do live on in that sense as mineral, liquid, solids, and gases, and in each other's memories.
That's because like some people have said that they remember their past life, so like they were able to tap into, I guess, their akashic records,
Yeah, so they say
and they
Akashic
were,
records as well, yes.
yeah.
One of the deepest experiences I'll say for that is when you're a child. As a child, we're full of everything, imagination, thoughts, and we're eventually sort of dumbed down and programmed into this world in a sense. Like when I was a
Yep.
kid, I didn't even know I was meditating as a kid. I just put it down to daydreaming. I realized later, and I
Mhm.
stopped doing it when I sort of found out what it was. But I
Yeah.
seen a few stuff when I was a kid. I seen a lot of dreams of places that I was never at, like was another person. I seen like a Roman centurion in a battleground. I seen a monk sitting there meditating near a waterfall, and I didn't understand what it was when I was a kid. Later on, I do now. Like I also put down maybe a bit of Asperger's as well with information, but I just see this whole life as never ending, just forever learning something. Life's about meaningful experiences in order you to grow and develop ourselves. And in life, because of religion, we're told not to seek certain things, that we're strained from certain things. And this can be damaging. So we're not learning anything, basically. So we have to experience, you know?
No, you're right, because um Man, there was this dream that I would always have, bro. And it felt like I was always getting smothered by something black, right? And it was weird. Like it was always like something was just gonna smother me, and then I would just wake up out of nowhere and have this weird idea of what I was dreaming. And it was it's crazy you say that because like I said, when you read the Bible, all that stuff is in visions almost like
Yeah.
with Ezekiel and Enoch and um, Moses with the burning bush and stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because the oldest writings were our visions.
Oh, okay. So I was looking up something. The okay. So when we was talking about the spirits, remember you said that when I said that some people believe the energy could just be our soul or spirit or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Do you think the spirit and the soul is the same thing?
Yeah, I think the soul is the mind,
Yeah.
like an eternal mind, like basically like that comes from the Druids and the Gnostics, and even from ancient Greeks and even ancient Egyptians from the old mystery schools. As wasn't just one religion in Egypt, there was always been multiple cases of religions, but there were a lot of reincarnation cults in ancient Egypt too, and this all goes back to the idea of the mind. So the kingdom of heaven being within you and outside of you, like Thoth says, and even in the Bible, is still got little bits of reincarnation. Most of it's being removed, but say John the Baptist being Elijah, as Jesus
Nah,
says,
shoot. Reincarnation. What do you consider reincarnation? First of all, you hit something that I wanted to tap on. Reincarnation. What is your idea of reincarnation?
Well, energy being recycled and reused, basically. So information. So you're continuing to seek experiences until you no longer need to reincarnate or evolve. I see evolution and reincarnation goes hand in hand. So we've all started off as a microorganism, basically, that's evolved through the points of becoming aware. So when life first starts, it's primitive. When it starts to become more aware, it starts developing because evolution starts within the mind. This is why the Gnostics say the mind is the treasure. So the earliest beliefs of the soul was in the mind. So they cherished it. Like even with Neanderthals, I think, not Neanderthals, one culture, I think I know Druids, they used to keep the heads of their loved ones as they sing the soul inside the head. But even with
Right.
the ancient cave paintings, if you see some, they have spirals and some of them coming out of a head or on a belly. So that represents reincarnation, mind, and creation in a sense for the mothers. That's where you got Mother Earth and this never ending process,
Yep.
basically.
Yeah, Mother Earth is just continuously recreating itself and
Yeah. So where they basically
rebuilding itself.
experience, that's where the whole saying is, we're God playing with ourselves, basically. Experiencing life, developing ourselves to return to the source, energy itself. So it means everything's always existed as this form of energy, basically. So this whole experience is to come to know itself, to experience. So with some Gnostics, with the whole act of the demiurge, yada off, it's symbolically to be taken that life can be by accident. So it's simply about the soul discovering itself. We're all the archons, we're all good and we're bad. So archons being mentioned as love being a good archon, hate being a bad archon. So this is all reflections of oneself. So angels, again, are reflections of oneself. Earlier scriptures will mention angels being past lives as well. Well, having past human lives, sorry to say, I meant actually say that. But even Metatron was said to be a human in his past life, and some stories were even of Michael or Oriel even. So this is, again, reflections of oneself. So we are the angels, we are the demons, we are God. So all life itself is God. It's just a title. I am who I am, basically.
Okay, because you tapped on something that I like, reincarnation. Reincarnation is basically in your eyes being born again, right?
Yeah, basically as well.
With a
Also, I
body or
don't
so.
believe in karma as well,
Okay.
because
Okay,
it
because
implies a punishment system, and I don't see that. I just see it as a never-ending information cycle of learning.
you said that that just want to make sure I heard you right, that um being born again. How did you say that? I want to make sure I said it right. Because I know you probably,
Reincarnated
I
is
know
another
you,
word.
yeah. So when you're reincarnated, born again, or
Yeah.
whatnot, right? That do you think, okay, because this is what it says in the Bible, so you get an idea what I want to say. It says, where is it at? Okay, John 3:3. Jesus answered him, truly, truly, I say to you, unless one is born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. So if you're born again in a body and sense, and you won't see the kingdom of God, what is your idea of the kingdom of God? Because when I read of the kingdom of God, I think of heaven.
Well, the mind, basically. Heaven is in your mind. But also the true
Yeah,
heaven comes from the
yeah.
pleroma, which is energy itself. So being one with God, so returning to God. So no longer being separated in a sense. But reborn again also means discovering yourself. So reborn is the true you. So it's taken symbolically. Life is always about rebuilding ourselves, reconstructing ourselves, becoming something new, you know? So becoming the true versions of us, letting go of limited beliefs and ideas that no longer serve us. So to be more compassionate, more loving, and more rational. You know, so this is the case of being reborn again, finding your inner Christ, finding your inner Buddha, being like Christ yourself, basically, you know. So this
Yeah,
goes
because they
back to
said,
the individual path.
yeah, some people do believe that Jesus was Krishna or Krishna, depending on how you
Yeah,
want to say his
even
name.
Thoth.
Yeah, in Thoth. Yeah, yeah. I was talking about that before. Some people do believe Jesus is Thoth. I read that. I can't remember where, but it's so amazing that all these similarities between these guys, and it's just so amazing that there's only people only believe in one book.
Yeah, you know, Simon Magnus, some people even worshipped him as Christ's second coming, and he was an early Christian in a sense. That's one reason in the Bible they said he tried to buy the Holy Spirit, to pretty much dismiss him in a sense. He was highly popular,
It's
which is quite funny.
crazy, man.
Yeah. There was even a
But see
man I was
that.
looking at that was stoned to death because he said he was Christ. He didn't actually say he was Christ. What he was supposing is Christ is within him and within you. So he was trying to
Yeah,
say this message and they
but it
stoned him
does
to
say
death.
it says that in the Bible. Let me, man, see, look, I love this website, bro. I don't know if I ever gave you this website, but I go to
Just turn my air conditioner on.
I
It's starting to get a
I
bit
go
warm
to
here now.
Bible. Yeah, I go to Bible Gateway all the time for my stuff, man, and I can just type in. Let's see. I'm gonna type this in first because this will probably be easier to find. Okay.
I think I've
Let's
checked
see.
out Bible
Here we
Gateway once or twice myself. I know I checked out the Britannica one. That's pretty good.
Oh, I use Bible Gateway and Bible Hub, and I use oh, there's another one. Sacredtext.com. Like Sacred Text, man, I'm telling you, I think I showed you that before,
Yeah,
bro. Sacredtext.com. You
that's
could,
amazing. I
yeah,
haven't
you
fully
got
checked it out. I've just seen little bits. I keep forgetting
it
about that.
has
I was going to check it
it
out after this
has
sometime.
it has everything on there that you want to know about our history. I mean, it
Honestly,
is
I
just
haven't checked it out fully, and it's already one of my favorite websites. So just because I've seen how much I had on, I'm like, fucking hell.
man, it has so much stuff on there, bro. Like just clicking on the first thing, world religions, you gotta read all this stuff right here. Like you got, man, it's just to get a sense of everything is it's amazing. Like I love it. There's a lot of information, but that's what I say. That's what's so strange is that I don't have enough time. Like you said earlier, you do your videos, right? You do your videos and you keep them pretty short because you don't want people to get bored and stuff like that. And you do read a lot too. So, man, I got two kids and I'm married and stuff like that. So I only have at night to do whatever I want to do. So anywhere from 10 o'clock at night to about 5 o'clock in the morning, I have what I do. And I love recording and sharing what I learned, but I love reading. So I don't like to take away from that. Plus I'm writing a book and it's like, man, I'm doing articles and stuff like that. So I have my website that I'm updating. I do these videos. And then I'm writing my book and stuff like that, and I'm reading, and it's just like, man, there's just not enough time in the day because sometimes I like to just relax. I don't like to do none of this stuff. I don't want to. I do this as a hobby. I don't want to get burnt out from doing it.
I get you, bro. And it does happen. I've burnt myself out doing it as well. But it's good because you're sharing knowledge to someone, you're waking people up,
Yeah,
and you're bringing a bit of light to
yeah,
this world. You know, like this
yeah.
world could use more love and knowledge. You know,
Somebody gave me some advice. They said just pick a time when you want to do something. Like that's why I say, man, like I know from 10 o'clock till about 5 o'clock at night or in the morning, I have this to do. So I can pick what I want to do. I can do this for like 2 hours and then the rest of the days I can do because I'm not going to record every day. I've tried to release one every 2 weeks now because I don't want to. It's so hard. I try to actually edit. I don't know if you're going to see this next video that I did with us. You're going to see how I edited and put some stuff in there. I put your YouTube in there, and
I
it's
have to learn how
interesting
to do
because
that, man.
yeah, it's pretty interesting, bro. Like it's uh like when we talk about this stuff, I go back and listen to it, and what I do is I place like screenshots of what we talked about, like just in case we get something wrong, you're able to say, okay, yeah, I might have got this wrong, but I can put this up here and show it and stuff like that. And that's what I do because it happens, man. Like you said, you made a video that you mistakenly said something. That
Yeah,
happens, bro. That happens. I mean, as long as you caught it, that's what counts. A lot of people won't even admit that much.
I
They'll be
noticed
like,
that.
"Oh,
It's
that just stick."
terrible.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I end up
And
deleting that video and putting the right one on. But I've seen it so many times. I actually pointed out once a scholar, Religion for Breakfast, I pointed out that he made a mistake on saying two scriptures come from the same date. Like, actually, bro, this one come from this time and this come from this stage. And what he did was he pretty much blocked me from being able to communicate on it just because I called him out once. And I was heaps polite about it. So in the end, I start saying, look, if you want to hear real Gnostic history, come to my channel instead. So I thought, if you're going to be a dick for that, I'll be a dick, you know. But yeah, I've
no,
seen him be out of school in a sense. Some topics he discusses amazing. I actually liked him, so I was kind of like upset that he blocked my comment just because I pointed out he made my mistake. I actually had someone else point out to me about I made a mistake on that video, and I said, thank you so much. I love being wrong because then you can learn. How
yeah,
else are we
that's
going
how
to
you
learn?
remember. That's how you remember shit, man. I was telling my wife that I was like, I learned better from failure.
Yeah, fucking
Because
oath.
it helps me remember because like I said, I read so many different books, bro, and it's just like you're going to mix up shit and that's why I say I try to stay away from my opinion and say this is what I've read and this is most of the time, 99% of the time I can pick out where I've read it at in the book, or at least give you the book that I've read it from. I can give you a source or something. But I only share what I've learned. You know what I mean? Like when I learned that some people consider Thoth and Jesus one and the same, I was like, wow. I was like, I would have never thought of that. But then when you look at some of the similarities, it's like, well, everybody has a similarity. I mean,
Yeah,
I guarantee you, people could find similarities between both of us. We both have, sleeve tattoos and stuff.
yeah,
So that's a similarity. We both got beards. That's a similarity. We're both wearing headphones. That's a similarity. That doesn't mean that we're the same people. You know
that's
what I
right.
mean? If they were to describe us, they would be like they would describe those type of things.
Yeah, we're one but
And
many.
yeah, exactly. So sometimes it's just amazing to know that because some people believe that Thoth and Enoch was the same. And some people believe Moses and Enoch was the same. Like, was it? No, Moses and Thoth was the same.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so many different
Even Adam and
ideas.
Jesus and all sorts. you know.
Yeah, and
And this is
uh,
because there are many varieties of ancient Christianity, that's
yeah,
merged their ways in through the mainstream Christians. But the only thing is, mainstream Christianity these days are so close-minded. But ancient Christianity was very open-minded. That's when we had these beliefs such as Jesus was Thoth, Hermes, and all this sort of stuff. They were open-minded, searching for all these different faiths. They were kind of like the first omnists in a sense.
yeah.
And then later on, it changed completely different. Like today's Christianity is nowhere near the past, completely different.
Nah,
You know?
no way, no way, no way. And,
That's every
and it's
religion,
strange
bro.
because I know I talk about Jeff Benner a lot because he actually I actually had a discussion with him, but I've known my own research and known my own history about Hebrew and the understanding of that, and I know that um, no matter how you look at it, everything that was written down in religion was written down through a picture of some sort. You know what I'm saying? That's still one
Yeah,
picture, so that means the person that drew that picture understood it different than the person that's reading that picture. You know what I'm saying? The supervisor could have seen it different than the person that actually wrote the picture on there, and it can mean two different things just by those two different people by itself.
Yeah.
So I understand the whole idea of how to understand the translations and the text and stuff like that. But I'm telling you, when I have discussions with some people, bro, some people swear that they're right about everything. And I'll be like, hey, I just want to know, can you show me where it's at? Can you show me where the written source is at, the ancient text that says that or this or that? And they'll be like, well, go do your own research. And I said, that's how I came up to my goddamn conclusion in the first place, is doing my research.
Yeah.
You're telling me that my research is wrong. So show me where my research is wrong, so that way I know where to find it, because I already did my research. And people won't give you the facts. They'll call
They're
you
stuck
all
on
kinds of
belief.
names. Yeah, they're stuck on belief, and they'll be like, well, this is what it says, and this is what I believe. And I'm just like, but that doesn't make sense. Like think about it. Okay. Like one of the scriptures that didn't make sense to me in the Bible was that, and this is what many Christians believe. Like I'm telling you, when I join these Twitter spaces, it's only because I want to understand if these people are on Facebook. You can get a sense that people are trolling because, there's always these robots and people just messaging and whatnot. But on Twitter, some of these people on Twitter have the blue check mark. So that means they've actually paid their $8 for the year to basically show who they are. So these people are not trolls, I mean, they're trolls, but they're paying to be a troll. So this is the voice of the people, basically. So but some of these people really believe that we were created 6,000 years ago by a God, and they don't believe that history, such as evolution, happened. They think that God created us exactly how we are now, 6,000 years ago. They don't believe in the Big Bang Theory.
And the world is flat.
And they don't, you know what? I've read about the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory is not even a theory that most Christians believe it is. It's just an idea of a starting point of our universe, that we started from somewhere. Basically, God is the same thing as God creating a universe that started from one single point.
Well, basically, we are the Big Bang. We're still experiencing it,
The guy Georgie Lemaitre is the guy that wrote an article or a thesis or something on his idea where the Big Bang Theory. He never called it the Big Bang Theory. I can't remember the guy's name, but he said it on the BBC radio some time ago. I think like in the 1950s. But he's the one that said that he was a criticizer of George's Lemaitre's idea of how the universe came to be. And all Lemaitre said was that we started at a single point from possibly maybe an explosion of some sort or whatnot. And the guy that criticized him said that he came up with the actual idea of the Big Bang Theory. He is actually the founder of the theory of, or the title of the Big Bang Theory. So the guy that actually came up with the idea that the universe started as a single point he never called it the Big Bang Theory. He never did it. He called it like the primeval atom or something like that. I can't remember, something like that. But it's interesting because you get this idea that people say, like Christians would say, don't teach my kid about the Big Bang Theory. So you don't want to teach your kid that that the universe started off as a single point. And they're like, well, that's not what the Big Bang Theory is. And I'm like, bro, you really need to go and read and stop believing what somebody told you on Facebook or Twitter. Like I have a Kindle, and it's like $9 a month to get like as many books that I want for free, and I get to keep them as long as I want to, no matter how long it may be. So there's a lot of free books that are on there that you can read that talks about this stuff, and it's free. So it saves you money instead of having to go buy like a $50 book every time you learn something new. But I've read about the Big Bang Theory, and it's not what people think it is. The Big Bang Theory is, it could be your theory, it could be my theory, it could be,
Basically,
theories all around the world.
there was an idea that it wasn't called the Big Bang, though. It was an idea that it's pretty much would be referred to as the Big Bang in now
Yeah,
by modern science, but it comes from the
yeah,
Gnostics, and that was that pretty much was an explosion of thought, and that's
yeah.
pretty
That's
much the
yeah,
oldest account of it. But there's a couple of religions that mention some old stuff. One thing I enjoyed was by the Mayans, and they mentioned what caves they came out of, and they found those caves, and there was 6 different species of humans living in those caves. I think that was in South America. That's mind-boggling. So they actually spoke about those caves that they ventured out of, and
yeah.
it's
Well,
crazy.
they they have myths that talk about you said in Mesoamerica, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, they have myths that talk about how there, I think, are 7 different species that were created by the gods. I can't remember that were on planet Earth. It could have been 6, but I know it's about that that number. But that's all over the place, though. I think the Inuits even talk about that, if
yeah. I
I'm not
think
mistaken.
Aztecs as well a little bit. I think it might be the Aztecs or the Mayans actually that mentioned about the cave. One of them two. I forgot which
Well, you got to
particular
remember
group.
that Aztecs, the Mayans, the Toltecs, and the Olmecs, they all they basically were all the same.
Yes, and they just migrated
Ships.
out.
Yeah, yeah. Because they, from what I understand, and and this is an argument because of the location where they possibly came from, but they said that the Olmecs were the first people into Mesoamerica, but because the idea that they may have possibly originated from Africa and were possibly the first ones to travel across the ocean to Mesoamerica, a lot of people don't want to hold that up because they don't want to have any idea that Africans traveled that
Yeah.
far, so
Also
they
Asia as
don't
well,
want to
some
do
people
that
think
research.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got to remember that and I talk a lot about genetics because it's important that people understand haplogroups and stuff like that, like how humans came to be. And that was the whole reason why I wanted to do that interview with Dr. Keith Chang about the white gene, is that I want to understand how people got from place to place. And I know that when you try when you trace the haplogroups from Africans to the Indus Valley to Europe to Mesoamerica, you see that there's all one common ground. And then as the people stayed there for however long it takes for another mutation to happen, you can see the changes in the body and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. Like a lot of people say that there's still Neanderthals still walking around, and I could probably believe that.
Or at least bigger traces in other people because of selective breeding and
Yeah,
stuff, because that was a big thing
yeah,
back in ancient days. They were
yeah,
throwing away females if they looked deformed or if they seemed sickly. The Spartans were doing it to their boys, the Vikings were doing it to their girls, and almost wiped out their own
yeah.
population. If they weren't going out raiding, they would have gone extinct. So that's why their
Yeah,
DNA is all mixed with
all over
everything.
the place. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're everywhere. That's why you have Vikings with rings that are in Islamic writing.
yeah, everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with all
Yeah.
humans. We've always been intermingling with all different species. I don't like the whole science to say, oh, we were all warlike, when it wasn't the case. We found cave paintings of humans dealing with depression. We have them making love, having big communities. There's no doubt the communities would have also traded and made love, and no doubt they would have also had beef with each other, from time to time. Like
Well,
you
it's the
took my
same thing
wife, rah,
today.
rah. Exactly.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, it's the same thing today. The only difference from today to back then is now mostly people today are only uh, involved with themselves. Like, how many of your neighbors actually come to your? Well, I mean, I don't really know your neighbors, but how
not
many
none
people
really.
really come to your house? Say, hey, how are you doing? Do you need some milk? Do you need some
Yeah,
cheese?
it's rare.
Do
You
you
used to have
need?
that all the
Do you,
time.
yeah? I got some eggs if you need some. Do you need something? Hey, offering something. I don't do it to my neighbors, of course. I don't know if you do, but I'm just saying back then people really had to look out for each other to be
Yes.
successful. Nowadays, no, people,
No,
it's all about the me concept.
100%.
I.
They were more careful with who they chose their friends to be. If they didn't have the same morals or anything like that, that was considered a death sentence, basically. So it
Yeah,
was very, very different. But it's a shame we've lost that side of us that was caring for each other. You know what I mean? You still see it in a lot of some ethnic communities that they keep their families together, and that's beautiful. You know, they're all helping each other. A lot of us have lost that, which is a shame, especially in Western civilization, you know. But like, I remember even when I was younger, like here in Australia in the 90s, a little bit different than now. Pretty much the streets sort of looked after each other. Would trade off stuff and herbs and spices, eggs for
Yeah.
milk, stuff like that. You don't see that anymore, really. You know, it's rare. You know, a lot of it's to blame on drugs, and you know, as well. Unfortunately, that's a big problem these days. We have
Yeah,
different drugs than what we did back then. You know, we have
the
horrible man-made
chemicals.
shit. Yes.
Yeah, well, you got to understand, people taking meth, people taking, you know, the pharmaceutical pills that's snorting the oxycodone
Yeah.
and tramadol and stuff like that, and
That's the biggest
Percocets
scourge on
and stuff.
humanity. You know.
Yeah, they're not using nothing natural. Everything that's natural that does the same thing is banned, but they got the chemicals that rot your brain.
Yeah.
I was telling, for the last, I want to say the last month, me and my wife been watching a lot of TV shows, especially like FBI and CIA type shows and cop shows and stuff like that. And no matter what show you're watching, people are allowed to drink beer. They're allowed to get drunk. I mean, if you go home, the idea is a cop can go home, even a fireman can go home, be off for those 12 hours and be drunk for those 6 to 8 hours that he's off. As long as he comes back to work fully um
Sober.
fully sober, he's able to do his job. But
Yeah.
you come home and do a mushroom or smoke a marijuana joint or something like that lasts only maybe an hour high or something. Because when you get drunk, you get drunk for a while, and it's
Yeah.
sick. Like you're inebriated. Like when you're drunk, you're drunk. You know, you're drunk. But when you're on certain types of mushrooms and marijuana and stuff like that, you're not that far off. Like some people would take mushrooms and really freak out, but that's because they took a high dosage of it. You know what I mean? They don't
I've
take,
never had mushrooms. I've had DMT before though, and that
I
doesn't
ain't
last
never
very
had
long.
that.
It's stronger than mushrooms, basically, I've heard, but not as long. It lasts 20, 30 minutes. And after the high's gone, apparently it's about an hour to leave your whole system, because when you keep your eyes closed, you're still seeing little bits. It's not bad, but you can produce it naturally with meditation as well.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you know.
And that's what I was going to get into, is that those natural things that are banned today are
Can open
used
your
for
mind as well.
meditation. Yeah, you can do, it's for meditation. You can meditate and you can do that stuff, but
Yeah.
not today. Like, man, you try to meditate on some Percocet, man.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
I've been on Percocet before because I had my wisdom teeth taken out, and they had to give me Percocet for my wisdom to be taken out. And man, that was the worst feelings in the world, man. Like, oh man, it just felt so. My stomach was hurting. I was like, oh, I can't stand this, and I hate medication too.
Yeah,
Like,
so
I
do I.
really do. I hate it. It makes me puke all the time. I don't know why. I don't know. My body just rejects it. It's crazy. But like going back to like with the gods and the aliens and the visions and stuff like that, in the Bible, in the Egyptian texts, in the Mesopotamian texts, Mesoamerican texts, they all have texts that deals with certain types of hallucinogens that helps them with these visions. And it's crazy because even Native Americans, even
the Jews as well were doing it too. We found an old temple. They were breathing in burnt cannabis and frankincense and myrrh to receive visions. And the Zoroastrians were doing it with opium and pot.
Yeah. I was gonna say that little thing that they swing when they're walking down the
they were
aisle.
breathing
That's supposed to. Yeah, that was supposed to see. Today it's sage or sage.
It's
That
different
from what
now.
I understand. Yeah, but back then it was supposed to be like some opium or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to help you
relax,
see things in church. Yeah,
also for childbirth and stuff as well. You know, that was used. They were bringing into this, you know, praise be.
Yeah, swinging over. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
amazing.
remember reading that. I remember reading that stuff. But that's crazy because not a lot of people understand that or know that.
No.
And I also know that a lot of people don't get the idea that like when you read these ancient texts, there's these ancient texts. Some of that stuff is weird because it makes me wonder, why would they record this stuff thousands and thousands of years ago if nobody else could read it except the special people? So there's got to be some kind of um, truth to it behind it. I mean, when people start exaggerating and start putting their own opinions in what the text may seem or may mean, it throws me off because I'm like, once I don't see it, I can't believe it.
Another thing is some of the stuff arguably wasn't actually meant to be written down, because a lot of cultures preferred oral traditions. That way it
Yeah,
wouldn't become dogma. So that means you couldn't,
yeah.
you know, well, in other words, if things need to
It wouldn't be
change with the
set in
times, you
stone.
know, it could change with the times. Yeah, basically,
Yeah.
like Druids was forbidden to write anything down as they didn't want it stolen or being forced upon anyone. So told by stories, communication, you know, shared, you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they didn't want it to be set in like stone. Like, hey,
Yeah,
just because we said it today doesn't mean it's going to apply, 3,000 years from now. We're just
that's
saying
right.
for right now, this is what we need. But it's weird because they say that they have thousands and thousands of these tablets that say the same thing over and over again. And I'm just like, but how many people could really read? Like when they say thousands and thousands of tablets, I know they say that they had taxes, marriage certificates, and stuff like that, but they don't
Yep.
actually talk about how many tablets were actually related to the myths. You know what I mean? They don't talk about how many tablets were myths, because you could have like 30,000 tablets, and 25,000 of those tablets could be about sales and taxes
A lot of them were
and
as well.
verse. Yeah, and then like the last 5,000 were maybe reprintings of myths that were written down. So the ratio, you don't really get the
No, you
ratio
don't.
idea.
And heaps of that's been found in Mesopotamia. They even found the first "your mum" joke there, you know, and
Yeah.
it wasn't that funny. It was more because this dude ripped him off and actually showed this shopkeeper through archaeological
Mhm.
evidence. He was ripping off the community and he became bankrupt. And someone else said down, the person who owns this shop, I had intercourse with his mother, and that was pretty much the first mum joke, you know.
Dang.
Yeah, it's in
Yes.
Mesopotamia. But they found
So
heaps of
yeah,
stuff. Yeah, as you were
yeah,
mentioning,
but that's
that's
what I'm
gangster.
saying. That's what I'm saying. Like none of them really always talks about. They don't ever talk about exactly how many myths were, or what was really spoken as myth versus what was, just written down. Somebody could just wrote something down because they wrote something down. I
Yep.
mean, I don't know.
They've
It's
even
just
found stuff
crazy.
left by tourists. There was a stone they found in ancient Egypt that was written by a Greek man, and it says, "Here I laid on top of this chick," or something like that. I forgot the names what it says, but yeah, it was saying it was pretty much where he was saying it was his intercourse spot was basically. So he was a
Man,
tourist basically. So we've been writing on stones for a long time, making graffiti and all that sort of stuff, you know. So who's to say some of that what we have found isn't someone's idea of a joke or anything like that, writing down something as well, you know. So another
oh
thing as
man,
well that was going on too was ancient writings were also stolen, and even their authors were changed. A lot of Plato's works and all that sort of stuff, etc., was simply changed. Christianity was bad for that, with the monks reading through the old stuff. They were simply stealing stuff, rewriting it, and saying that I wrote this instead, you know, which is kind of
yeah.
interesting.
We got some good comments on here so far, man. That's pretty cool, bro. Like,
Awesome.
this guy says, in his opinion, according to Sumerian text, the Neanderthals are a hybrid man and Sasquatch, the first two beings successfully created by Enki, first hairy human, second hairless. It's my view that this is a misled science narrative yet to catch on. It's interesting.
Yeah, I
And
haven't heard that one before.
he talks about the spirit, physical manifested of infinity soul, and then he says the soul, internal toroida. I don't know if you meant to say that. Black hole, pinpoint of light in 3D physicality. I could tell you from his idea when he says about the Sumerian text, the Neanderthals are a hybrid of man and Sasquatch.
I heard of that theory actually before, but not the Sasquatch, about Neanderthals, and they simply called them ape men or something like that along those lines is where that comes from. But Sasquatch is more of like a myth, you know. Everyone has like a myth of Bigfoot and all this sort of stuff, and they could be misrememberings of this old sloth creature, basically, they reckon as well.
Yeah, some people say that.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
misrememberings of werewolves as well. The idea of
Yep.
werewolves has been around for a very long
Yeah.
time. You know, we
Yeah.
were very superstitious people. It's like the whole idea of demon worshipping. That's bullshit, because people were so superstitious back then, they'd be too scared to do that shit. Maybe a curse here and here they would have planted on someone and named their god, but worshipping something like a demon, they'd be too scared to, you know?
Yeah. I think it's because you got to remember shamans. I mean, you know what a shaman looks like. You live in an area where there are more shamans around openly than there are here in America, at least. And you know that they have an appearance that some people don't think that looks like a norm, what somebody normally would look like. You know, long hair, sometimes paint on their face.
Yeah.
You know, the minimum type of clothing on, and you know, some of them might be more inclined to be with nature and dirt, by not wearing
and they were
shoes
usually
and
ones
stuff
telling
like
the
that.
oral myths as well. You know, they were usually in
Yeah.
charge of the stories.
Yeah. True. But yeah, man. Hey, man, I want to get off, man. We've been on here for 2 hours, man. It's like 3 in the
Nice.
morning, bro.
Oh,
This
we
is
could
good.
late one.
This one. Hey, I was going to say before we get off, man. We should do this more often. Just go ahead and do it live like this on here, so that way we can go ahead. Like, you already know how to record it and stuff, but we can just go ahead and just share our stuff back and forth like this.
Yeah, that'd be
And we
awesome,
can do
bro.
it.
I get
Come
longer
up with
chats out of
another.
this. So that's killer.
Ask your people. Yeah, we could do, like, you could just keep this on like your YouTube, because people, you know, people like to see the people that are sharing this stuff. But yeah, we could do that. But also we can always go live also. But not only that, ask your people on the page or your group what topics they would like for us to talk about.
Yeah, no worries. I'll have to actually do that.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah,
that'd be a
I'm
good
gonna
one.
do that too. Yeah, see what we can talk about, and we can put our sources together and stuff like that. And you can get whatever books that you have, and I can get whatever books I have, and we can just go from there. And that way we can just have a comparative studies idea.
That'd be a killer, man. I have to start recording some of my sources as well. Start taking notes and everything, so I don't forget them.
And man, hey, buy those little tabs. I showed you. Remember those little sticky tabs, the sign here tabs? Buy those, bro. I buy a lot of those from
Yeah, I definitely
Amazon.
have to get some. Oh yeah, you can get them. I forgot about ordering them online. I think I gone to like the reject shop or a dollar shop or something. Get $2 shops.
No, go get them from Amazon, bro. You'll get like 1,500 of them for like almost 8, 9, 10 bucks. Well, I don't
No
know how much the
worries.
price difference is,
Yeah,
but
that's cool.
I get 1,500 of those, bro. And man, it takes me like at least about 2 or 3 months to go through them.
Another thing I wanted to ask Tyro, with this, do I have to put stop recording or anything like that as well?
No, well, no, yeah, I'll hit end and it will end, or you could hit stop recording too. Yeah, you'll have to hit stop recording. Once you hit end or stop recording, it's going to automatically start converting. Like, so
Okay.
don't even close out the thing.
Yeah,
Like,
no worries.
just hit end or stop recording, whatever, and it will automatically do it. Because when I hit end, it's going to take us both out. And then if it doesn't stop recording on yours, just hit it and it will just automatically like convert. And I usually just leave my computer open until it's done converting. But if you can't find it,
I'll just send you a message. I'll get you send it to me if I can't.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tyron, for showing me that. That's a new little thing. I'm definitely gonna have to keep.
All right, bro.
Peace and love,
man. Well,
Tyrone. Lovely chatting to you, brother. Have a good one, bro.
Peace.
I'll speak to you next time.
You too, man. Take it easy.